What is up, everybody? We have with me right now James Lovejoy, the lead developer of Vertcoin, joining me today to discuss Vertcoin and just get a little bit of background knowledge about Vertcoin and also himself. So thank you for joining me today, James.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to jump in really quick because I don't want to take too much of your time, but could you give us a quick introduction, like a rundown of your background, your history of your involvement in cryptocurrencies, and also why you decided to involve yourself within the cryptocurrency community?
So
Let me check that out real quick. All right, could you guys please tell me in the chat box if there's currently sound? Let me know in the chat box if there's sound. Is there sound right now? Sorry about that, James. I just want to make sure that...
No worries.
All right, perfect. It says... All right, they can hear me now. Hold on one second. I'm going to make sure that we can fix that. See, I don't want to mess up real quick. All right, one second. Alrighty. Output. All right, so we have James Lovejoy with us from Vertcoin. He's going to give us a quick rundown, an introduction. Also, he's going to go over his past ventures, his position with Vertcoin, and also the history of his involvement in cryptocurrencies and why he decided to involve himself in the cryptocurrencies community. Go ahead, James.
I'm James Lovejoy, and I'm the technical lead on the Vertcoin project. I originally joined the cryptocurrency space back in mid-2013, 2014, when I started mining Bitcoin on my graphics card. Eventually, I migrated from there to Litecoin once it became far too difficult to mine using that method. And finally, once it became too difficult to mine Litecoin, I progressed onto Vertcoin, where I've stayed since. I joined the development team sort of around late 2014 and became the lead developer in sort of early 2015, where I've been at the helm ever since.
Okay. So Vertcoin was released in 2014, right?
Yeah, January 2014.
January 2014, okay. And how many Vertcoins are currently in circulation? And also, how many active developers are working on the project full-time?
So we currently have, I think, about 38.8 million Vertcoins in circulation, which is going to be halving. We'll have our block halving coming in sort of early December, going from 50 to 25 VTC. So once we reach the 42 million mark, we're halving in our inflation rate.
Awesome, awesome. And then what features does Vertcoin currently have, and what improvements are you looking to put on the platform in the future?
So I would say the main innovation that Vertcoin has is its commitment to ASIC resistance. We believe that the original point of cryptocurrency was to be your own bank, a financial system run by the people. Whereas in Bitcoin, Litecoin today, you have to be a passive observer. You can issue transactions, you can look at the state of the blockchain, but you can't share in the transaction fees, you can't share in the block reward, you can't decide what the current state of the protocol is. So we designed our own mining algorithm, Lyro2RE, which we currently use, and that allows GPU miners to mine the coin in a way that isn't currently allowed on Litecoin and Bitcoin.
Okay. Yeah, I know that.
In the future, we're looking mostly towards bringing adoption to the mass market. So I think we're going to be looking towards certainly point of sale applications. So being able to use it in stores like you would your Visa card or MasterCard.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, we're looking into making mining much easier for individuals. Ideally, we'd like to make mining as easy to set up as like a Sonos bar in your house. You can make it plug and play. So those are definitely the biggest things coming for us long term, mass market adoption.
Absolutely, yeah. We're moving closer and closer to that mass market adoption every day, and we're just, it's just increasing over time. Um, so with stealth addresses, I know that Vertcoin is the first coin to implement stealth addresses. Could you go over maybe what the benefits of stealth addresses is? Why is privacy on the public ledger so important to Vertcoin, which has to do with stealth addresses? And also, why stealth addresses, the feature was disabled, and I know that you guys are currently working to re-enable it.
Yeah, so there are multiple points here. Why is privacy important? Well, we all value our privacy, and right now it's very easy to de-anonymize people on the blockchain. If you post your address in public, anyone can type that into a block explorer and figure out how much money you have, who else you're sending your money to, where your money comes from, things like that. And that's not going to be acceptable to most people. Most people want to keep their financial situation private. So what stealth addresses allows you to do is post your address, your stealth address in public. But you would be unable to then take that stealth address and use it to look on a block explorer to see where the funds come from, where they've gone to, and in what amounts.
Okay. And you guys are currently going to be
So this is, I suppose, say again?
You're currently going to be re-enabling the stealth address feature, right? It's in progress?
Yeah, so in our previous wallet version to the current one, stealth addresses were implemented there, but we felt that implementing SegWit was a higher priority for us at the time, because a lot of the sort of user interface work around stealth addresses needed improving. We thought that SegWit in the sort of short to medium term would bring more value to the coin than stealth addresses would. And there simply wasn't time in order to sort of be one of the first with SegWit to also re-implement stealth addresses.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a big deal, especially when it comes to all of the other visions that you guys have for Vertcoin. So to the decentralized mining, I know that you guys, one of your biggest core values for Vertcoin is the decentralization of mining and also being ASIC resistant with the LYRA2RE algorithm. So could you go over briefly what exactly decentralized mining is, why it's so important to Vertcoin, and how you guys are going to further sustain the fair distribution of mining in the future?
So I would argue that sort of centralized mining is the biggest problem with cryptocurrency right now. You only have to take one glance at the Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SegWit fiasco that has just occurred to see that it's a serious problem. The original point of cryptocurrency was to be your own bank, and if we have a situation where one or two miners can go to a conference in New York and decide for all of us how it's going to be, that doesn't strike to me like a decentralized system at all.
Yeah.
So I think mining decentralization brings all of these benefits surrounding governance, distributing the coins in the first place, and again, in the future, when the block reward has decreased and mining is sustained via exclusively transaction fees, if we have a situation where the transaction fees are only being distributed to one or two very wealthy individuals, that sounds a lot to me like the system we already have with banks and clearing houses. And so why is Bitcoin an improvement to that? The transactions are incredibly expensive, so you may as well really just be using a bank.
Yeah.
In the future with VTC, instead, it's going to be all of the people who own and use the coin are mining the coin and reaping the benefits of those transaction fees. Lyra2RE is the algorithm we designed to try and achieve this. It works by being incredibly memory hard, which makes it prohibitively expensive to implement on an ASIC chip. That doesn't mean to say it's impossible to implement on an ASIC chip, but it comes with a secondary commitment from the development team and the community, which is to hard fork to a new mining algorithm should an ASIC ever be developed for it, which we have followed through with in the past when we switched from NScript to Lyra 2RE.
Okay. So, like you said, that there's still a possibility that ASICs could get onto that algorithm. How would you further, what would be your next step if that did happen? Because I know you're saying the decentralized mining, we have warehouses, we have Bitmain that mine a big portion of Bitcoin, and you want to distribute it to everyone so that they all can mine while also owning Vertcoin, so that you're not basically depending on a third party to mine the coin for you.
Exactly.
It makes complete sense.
You can be more than just a passive observer, which I think it was the original ideal of cryptocurrency in the first place.
Yeah. All right, and then you guys are currently working on a one-click Vertcoin miner, and basically what that's going to do is you're basically going to be able to mine Vertcoin on a just your computer while you're sleeping or whatever it is if you're not using the computer. Could you go over real quick what the one-click Vertcoin miner is, what the benefit is, and how easy it's going to be used? Because I know that it's all about convenience.
So one of the biggest problems with getting started with mining is that it requires a certain degree of sort of technical knowledge, learning how to make like batch files, run command line utilities, things like this, which it's not ideal for most people who aren't well versed with computers. Especially, a lot of gamers who play video games but don't necessarily know so much about computer configuration. The one-click mine is great because you can just paste in your wallet address and press a button depending on whether you have an AMD, NVIDIA card or a CPU, and that's all you have to do. You're already mining.
Okay. And what's the current progress of that miner? Since I know you guys are actively working on it,
it's publicly available if you join our Slack, which you can get to via slack.vtconline.org. I see it's actually linked in the description of this video.
Yeah, all links are in the description, guys.
So if you go there and you go in the one-click miner channel, you can download it from there whilst it's in beta stage. But I imagine very soon, in the next few weeks, we'll be making a general release because we're pretty satisfied with it at this point.
Absolutely. All right, yeah, so it's in beta testing, and then you guys are going to release the big release for the actual one-click Vertcoin miner. That's awesome. But yeah, guys, if you guys haven't already, you guys can join the Vertcoin Slack. I have in the description below all the links to most of the Vertcoin social media. So definitely get on there, especially with the Slack. And I think that there's also the Trello that shows which projects are being actively worked on. So definitely check that out. So James, I want to move on to...
Additionally, I should probably also mention we have our Reddit Developers AMA coming up this Saturday.
Yeah, and you guys are going to be answering questions, right?
Yeah, so that's at, I think, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
So,
Saturday.
So Vertcoin on Reddit AMA, 11 a.m. this Saturday. The Vertcoin team is going to be answering all of your guys' questions, so make sure to tune in for that as well. So we're going to jump into another topic, which is kind of like three things in one, but they all relate to each other. So segregated witness, you guys implemented segregated witness earlier this year, right?
Yeah, and I think back in May now.
Back in May, okay. So could you briefly, just very briefly, go over what segregated witness is and how does it benefit Vertcoin?
So SegWit is, on the highest level, a bug fix for the Bitcoin protocol. So it fixes what we call in the space a transaction malleability problem. So this is where I can issue a transaction, and you as an attacker can change my transaction in some way without my knowledge that makes the transaction still be valid, but it has a different transaction ID. Now, you may not think this is particularly bad, but it makes writing technologies like the Lightning Network and smart contracts on Bitcoin incredibly difficult. So segregated witness allows us to move the signature data out of the transaction into the segregated witness
Segregated witness, yeah.
part of the block. So the upshot of it is it allows you to implement a lot of smart contract things, specifically the Lightning Network in this case, which is the big technology that everyone seems to care about.
Yeah, essentially with Charlie Lee. But yeah, so segregated witness basically opens the door to Lightning Network, correct?
Yes, I mean, you could implement the Lightning Network without SegWit. That is entirely possible. It's just a lot more difficult.
Okay. Yeah, so it's good to take those small steps moving into bigger projects like Lightning Network. So I know that you guys already implemented Lightning Network. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've had mainnet Lightning transactions for a couple of months now.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what is the benefit of having, you already have SegWit, now you have Lightning Network. What is the benefit of having Lightning Network on the Vertcoin platform?
While in the long term, it's definitely going to be massively advantageous in terms of point of sale. One of the biggest problems that cryptocurrencies have today is, you need confirmations of your transaction before it can be considered valid. And given that in Bitcoin, at least, a transaction costs you $7, $8, and it might take a couple of hours to be confirmed, if you're standing at Starbucks wanting to buy a coffee, that's not going to work. So the Lightning Network allows us to make instant transactions on the network.
Okay.
So eventually, once it's ready for production usage, there's no reason why you wouldn't have a hardware device, walk into a store, and use your Vertcoins to buy something instantly.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and then you guys have atomic swaps, cross-chain trading, which is going to be coming soon. I know that I don't know if you guys are working with Litecoin. I know that we were talking before this live stream that you guys aren't affiliated with Litecoin, but if you look at the Litecoin roadmap, it does include Vertcoin with the atomic cross-chain trading, which hasn't been released yet. But could you go over briefly what atomic swaps is, and maybe what your involvement is, if any, with Litecoin in the future, and also Bitcoin as well is going to be included on that chain?
So atomic swaps are essentially an extension of the Lightning Network. So in the same way I can have channels with other people with Vertcoin, I can equally have a channel with someone in both Vertcoin and Litecoin, and then I can use those channels to trustlessly swap my two assets on both of those chains. So atomic swaps is going to allow us in the future to essentially take custody of funds away from exchanges. So right now, exchanges perform essentially two duties. They both perform market making, which is pairing two traders together, and they also handle the actual trading. So they take custody of your funds and they move person A and person B's funds around. What atomic swaps will allow us to do is decouple those two things. So there will still be exchanges, I imagine, who will provide matchmaking services, charting, order books, but they will no longer have custody of your funds. So the actual exchange will be occurring physically between the two people trading rather than the exchange itself performing that exchange.
Okay. And then I know that the only coins that I know as of right now that are going to be included on the atomic swaps is Litecoin, Bitcoin, and Vertcoin. Is there going to be exclusivity with which coins are going to be having atomic swaps, or is that not necessarily true? Or do you know which coins are going to be included?
Not at all. Any coin that supports what's called a hash time lock contract, which is essentially any SegWit coin and coins like Ethereum and their derivatives, any of those coins will be able to atomic swap. There's no exclusivity at all.
Okay. All right. So then, with atomic swaps, I know it's coming soon. Like, what would be the well, also, before we get to this next step, what is the involvement? I mean, I know that you were telling me that there isn't any involvement with Vertcoin and Litecoin, but do you guys swap information? What's the deal with Litecoin and Vertcoin always being brought up together in conversation?
I mean, I think that's largely a question you're going to have to ask Charlie Lee when you interview him on Friday. And we have no formal partnership with Litecoin. They did not consult us on the shout out they gave us in their roadmap, and have not spoken with us about it since. But on the question of cooperation with them, the Lightning Network is ultimately an open protocol, and all of the clients that exist to run the Lightning Network are all open source and publicly available. So I find it quite amusing when people say, when is the Lightning Network going to be released? Because you can see it. It's all on the internet already and has been for almost a year now. So to the extent that we're cooperating with them, we're both working towards the same end goals ultimately and contributing code to the same software projects, despite not having a direct official cooperation between the both of us.
So you guys are basically riding, Vertcoin and Litecoin are basically riding the same development train, if you will. They're both heading to that same outcome.
Yeah, we both, are contributing towards the same end, and send pull requests, code changes to the same repositories that make the Lightning Network happen. So I suppose to that end we're cooperating.
Okay. So
definitely Litecoin and Vertcoin are, obviously besides Bitcoin, the most active sort of Lightning Network developers. So
yeah, well, we know Bitcoin doesn't really have a face, unlike Litecoin and Vertcoin.
Yeah, I suppose not.
Which is the problem. We have all the politics with Bitcoin. We have all the issues, which is just getting worse and worse. And we'll see what the outcome is. But I think, of course, I love Vertcoin. I just recently talked about Vertcoin on my channel, and I think the decentralized mining factors just a game changer, huge deal, very big deal, because it's all about with cryptocurrencies. It's all about decentralization. The whole reason why people are turning over to cryptocurrencies, as the lead developer of Vertcoin, is because people don't want to deal with the banks. People don't want to deal with the government and stuff like that, and manipulation and centralization, which is awesome. So,
well, exactly.
So, next question: why is there a collective need for Vertcoin if Litecoin relatively has the same technological improvements?
Well, as we've been discussing thus far, Litecoin doesn't have the same technical improvements. It does nothing to solve ASIC resistance.
Yeah.
And thus is, totally centralized to the same people that Bitcoin is centralized to. If you were following back when Litecoin was trying to activate SegWit, it was such a problem with them. They had to have several meetings with, the heads of these mining companies, including Jihan, to request that they activate SegWit. Whereas with us, we didn't really have that same difficulty because the miners and the users with Vertcoin are the same people. Everyone decided that we wanted SegWit, and so we all upgraded our software, and really that was the end of it.
So really, what differentiates you from Vertcoin from Litecoin is the decentralized aspect when it comes to mining, right? The ASIC resistance.
Definitely. It's a coin that you don't just have to be a passive observer in. You can reap the benefits of a financial system owned by the people.
Exactly. And not have to depend on people, or not depend on huge warehouses or mining warehouses and stuff like that. It's basically you're doing it yourself.
Well, and also, there are questions around the economics of mining looking into the future. You only have to look at the hash rate chart for Litecoin and Bitcoin to see that the hash rate and the difficulty of those coins is increasing irrespective of the price or mining profitability. And that's completely unsustainable looking into the long term.
Yeah.
Because think how much electricity must be being expended for what is essentially no additional security or value to the network. Mm-hmm. It's just so that the couple of mining companies, are battling it out with each other to remain on top.
Exactly.
Whereas if you look at the difficulty chart for Vertcoin, you'll see that, there or thereabouts, it roughly tracks the price or at least the profitability of mining for the coin. Yeah. So I think in the long term, that will make our mining network a lot more sustainable in terms of energy usage.
Definitely for the long term, because we're going to see more and more issues from what Litecoin and Bitcoin don't have in the future, and it's just growing, especially with the blocks and stuff like that. So next question, I'm trying to train my thoughts right now. So people think that, I know that you don't have any involvement with Litecoin, but people think Litecoin is a test bed for Bitcoin. and Vertcoin already has Lightning Network aside from the decentralized mining. But I think some people also think that Vertcoin is a test bed for Litecoin, whereas Litecoin is a test bed for Bitcoin. So how would you reply to that?
Um, well, as we, I mean, Vertcoin is a drop-in replacement for Bitcoin or Litecoin. So any software which runs Bitcoin or Litecoin already can quite easily run Vertcoin by just replacing the software. It's really that simple. So in that sense, yes, it can be used as a test bed, but to say that its only usage or its main usage is as a test bed is false. Ultimately, the Vertcoin community is a collective of people working towards a financial system that is owned exclusively by them, and that's so powerful.
Yeah.
Being able to be fully in control of your own money, no banks, no Bitmain, no Jihan telling you how your money is going to be.
Yeah.
It's just you and your other fellow Vertcoiners.
Exactly. What do they call Vertcoiners? Vertins? Is it Vertins?
Vertins, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a term from the olden days. That is.
Yeah, I just came across that term.
In the olden days.
So I guess I'm considered a Vertin. So I got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Whenever I talk about it on Twitter, I'll be like, yes, I'm the Vertin. I am a Vertin. But yeah, I think in the long run, I see exactly where you're coming from with the decentralized mining and the issues that we're seeing with politics when it comes with mining and decision making. I see where you're coming from, and Vertcoin really has done a great job at stepping further past that milestone that what Bitcoin and Litecoin are soon going to run into. So I think the biggest accomplishment that you guys have is the decentralized mining and also the self-addresses for the long haul, the long-term future, because everyone knows decentralization is extremely important.
And SegWit is really just the start. SegWit was one fairly simple software upgrade, and it's taken us, at least in Bitcoin's case, like years. Nearly a year to get there, I think. It's coming up to a year, I think.
Yeah.
That's insane. It should not have taken a year for everyone to upgrade.
Yeah.
You only have to look, r/VTC is a different thing, but at least the majority of the Bitcoin community seems to be fairly united that SegWit is a good thing and it should be implemented. But despite the community's mass support for it, it didn't happen, and ultimately it's had to happen by force through a secret agreement in a hotel room in New York. So,
yeah, exactly. And the Bitcoin core has a lot different thoughts in comparison to the community.
Right. The core developers, who are the people who dedicate their lives to Bitcoin, right? They're not behind it, and their software doesn't even implement the New York agreement.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that this has happened, but mark my words, it's going to happen again and again and again. Anytime they want to make any protocol changes, they're going to run into the same problem.
And the fact that they can so easily make these changes and have such a bigger upper hand in comparison to the community investors is sad. That's an issue for the long-term future. And I know that we were talking about it before this live stream. We were talking about how I feel like if this continues, which it seems like it's just starting, like you said, that there's going to be a consequence in the future, a consequence that probably most of us don't want to see. Whether it's going to be the end of Bitcoin entirely, with all these forks, or a coin, which we don't know which coin it's going to be, is going to come up and take the stage.
Yeah, I really worry. I hold Bitcoin, and we can't deny that Bitcoin is integral to the success of the space because it is the biggest one by a long way, and a lot of the altcoins have to trade through Bitcoin to get any kind of trade volume at all.
Yeah.
So we want to see Bitcoin work and succeed, but I'm just really worried that it's going to stagnate because the Bitcoin core developers who don't get me wrong, are experts in their field, but they can't make any of the changes that they see fit and that would really help bring Bitcoin to the next level.
Exactly.
Because of the amount of inertia in the system. I feel really sorry for them, to be honest. It must really suck.
Yeah. It's like they're really conservative, and you've got the whole community that wants to move things forward, and it has to do with mass adoption. I think that we're furthering the mass adoption over time, and we've got a lot of big money institutional investors. I know that you've probably noticed with Korea, they've been buying all the cryptocurrencies on the biggest cryptocurrency exchange in Korea. So people are trying to get in, but I've said on my channel multiple times with Bitcoin, the issue is the politics. The issues is the fact that who's going to take Bitcoin as a payment if you see that much volatility, if there's the lack of promise, the people that are losing interest in it, or they're confused. With confusion, there's doubt.
Definitely. And community unity is important. And Bitcoin has a situation where the community is united around SegWit, and yet they're powerless to do anything about it. And that just seems a complete affront to the entire ideal of cryptocurrency in the first place.
Yeah. We all know that blockchain is the future, 100%, but we're kind of getting confused and doubtful on which currencies are actually going to take the stage. And I know that, I don't know if you saw, I know we're talking about Charlie a little bit, but I don't know if you saw the CNBC interview where he was talking about, there's over 800 cryptocurrencies, over 800,
oh, yeah.
and it's hard for someone to tell me that 800 of them are actually going to be utilized to the fullest extent. We have ICOs, we have all these coins that are kind of worthless, but I feel like, I don't know if you think the same thing, that there's going to be maybe a handful that are going to be used for the actual payment system in the future, and then there might be some fun tokens dependent on what their niche is, their niche.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely going to be a large contraction in the market in terms of the number of coins that exist before we see, mass market adoption. But the time we're in now, it seems very similar to sort of the early days of the internet and the dot-com bubble. I mean, you had people, raising millions and millions of dollars in, first rounds of funding based on, a PowerPoint presentation or something. And that's essentially what we have now. We have people throwing together, pretty sort of half-baked white paper with very few technical details. And they raise millions of dollars in ICO funds. And you read that white paper and you say that this is unworkable. You cannot, I don't care how much money you have, you can't implement this. Like, the technology just isn't there.
Yeah.
And yet, people, cryptocurrencies are difficult. It's not easy to get your head around how they work under the hood. And so I think it's very difficult for investors to tell, what's good and what isn't. Which is why we have sort of the top 20 coins, where I would argue that a lot of the top ones are quite sort of questionable in their technological sort of advantages compared to the rest.
You've got Dogecoin. I mean, everyone loves the Doge. There's always going to be some fun tokens. The Dogecoin blew up because of the tipping system and the people that joined together as a community. But
at least Dogecoin isn't trying to be something that it isn't. Like, everyone knows and accepts what Dogecoin is. No one is confused at Dogecoin. Like, no one thinks, yes, Dogecoin is the future of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone thinks it's a fun meme. You get coins that are called Doge. Brilliant.
Yeah.
But when I'm not going to name names, but you have other coins that are promising to be a lot of things, and then you go and look at their code base, or you look at what they have compared to what they've promised and how much they're worth, and you say to yourself, like, this is not really worth anything, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, the market thinks it's worth billions of dollars.
Well, people get wishful. They get hopeful, and there's really no you. I mean, you guys, you're brilliant. You're a genius. We all kind of know that. But
I wouldn't say I'm a genius.
but I see exactly where you're coming from, because I have people on my channel always ask me about, oh, go look at this coin, go look at that coin, and I really look at the coins that have the real fundamental value, the real team behind it. They actually have a history. They're working towards collective technological developments and outcome. And they already have big things like Vertcoin. What makes Vertcoin different? The fact that it's ASIC resistant. That's a huge deal, and I see exactly where you're coming from. But I mean, I don't want to drop names, but there is a coin that has 3 letters, ARK, and their roadmap is just jam-packed with a bunch of things. There's just so many things on it. It's like, it's always good to take little steps and get further and further, but to be trying to accomplish all of the world's problems and not just accomplishing one of the world's problems, it's kind of like you're trying to do too much. I don't know if you've heard of the art coin, but I don't want to drop.
100%, I agree with that. The way I see it is we haven't got the basics down in this space yet. Like, I feel like people are going way too far too quickly. We haven't really gotten around the sort of scalability issue. I mean, SegWit is probably going to activate like today on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And then, I would say at that point, like Lightning Network development like really begins, like as people realize that they can actually use it now.
With SegWit, yeah.
So, and that will hopefully solve the scalability problem. But we're not going to be able to go mass market or do any of the weird and wonderful things that people are promising until we have those basics sorted first. So I think in this space, people need to not get too far ahead of themselves.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And the other thing is, Vertcoin is, as cryptocurrencies go, it's really old. I mean, January 2014 is coming up to nearly over 3 years now. 4 years it will be in sort of December, January time. And that has outlived 95% of the coins you see today.
Yeah. No,
so I see people investing lots of money in these coins, and I think to myself, well, what's the chances this coin is around in 6 months?
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. That's why I try to stick with the big stuff. Stick with the stuff that has promising technology. You can actually look at it and think, wow, it just screams out to you that if a coin has a history and it's survived so many trials and errors and it's furthering its development, just like Vertcoin, that's a perfect example. I mean, I love Litecoin because of the stability. I love Litecoin because it's been around very early on in the game. But then you have Vertcoin, which has been out since 2014. It's slammed through these years. It's been continuously developing. You guys have an awesome team. You guys are very open with the community. And you guys just have certain things that other coins don't have, and there's probably some coins out there that are trying to copycat what you guys are doing, but the history and the reputation really is what counts. So I love Vertcoin. You're awesome, man. And I will continue to follow you guys. I'm on your Reddit page. I'm gonna continue to involve myself in the Slack channel as well. But definitely, I love Vertcoin. I love Litecoin. They're two definitely some big picks. Now, I have a quick question. I don't know if you could answer it for me. With the wealth distribution of Vertcoin. I know that I saw it on Reddit that certain people were concerned about the wealth distribution in wallets with Vertcoin, but could you answer that and clear that up a little bit?
I mean, I'm not really sure specifically what your question is regarding the wealth distribution. I mean, it's not something that we as developers can control in any way.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say is, a lot of those addresses you see that are particularly large are likely to be one exchange addresses.
Yeah.
Because people keep most of their funds on the exchange. So a lot of those are likely to be exchange cold storage.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the first point. The second point is that, less than half of Vertcoin's total supply has been emitted so far. So again, looking into the long term, anyone can start mining Vertcoin with your computer today. And so you can help to sort out the wealth distribution if you don't think it's to your satisfaction.
Yeah, absolutely. And
it's going to change a lot over the next 4 years.
And the halvening is going to be happening, right? You're going to be mining less Vertcoin?
It's currently scheduled for the 12th of December.
12th of December. And what exactly is going to happen during that halvening if, some of the people that are watching don't know what that is?
So the mining reward will go from 50 coins per block to 25 coins per block. And it will continue to halve every 4 years from that point onwards. So we're coming up to our first 4-year halvening.
And now, is that a benefit to Vertcoin, or is that a something that's not the best?
I mean, I think that depends on what your goals are with the currency. Vertcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin, in fact, I think all cryptocurrencies that are currently popular or in existence have one of two models. They either have fixed supply, so the amount of coins doesn't change with time, or they have a supply that will ultimately decrease with time or stay the same, but is initially increasing. So Vertcoin is deflationary. Which is an economic term where the money will become more valuable with time.
Yeah, so knowing that
fiat money is inflationary, so your money becomes less valuable with time. So it depends what you're going for. I mean, I think if you're going for a currency that is protected from sort of outside intervention, you want something that's a bit more akin to gold, that's likely to survive, economic shocks and things like that, then definitely deflationary is the most appropriate.
Yeah, Yeah, I know that I've talked about on my channel multiple times about fiat currency is extremely inflationary because they're printing money out of thin air, and as it cycles around and goes through circulation, what happens when you add more currency to a currency that already has a specific amount? It changes, it lowers the value.
That is done for a reason, though. There is economic basis behind it. Because if you don't have an inflationary fiat currency, you get what's called a deflationary spiral, which is where the money, because it's becoming more valuable with time, no one wants to spend their money in the economy because they think, well, I'll get more utility by just holding my money and not spending it. And as you can imagine, that causes the economy to collapse pretty quickly.
Yeah, people get fearful, right?
But the other problem is that with a deflationary currency, debts increase with time. Whereas with an inflationary currency, the value of debt decreases with time.
Okay, yeah, and a huge benefit of not only Vertcoin but a lot of cryptocurrencies is that there's a limited supply, so that nobody could just come in and start, creating more coins for the platform, right?
Yeah, so it behaves like gold very much in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you want to stick around to answer a few questions really quickly, and then we can finish up and wrap things up
Sure
from the
thing.
chat box? So, I'm going to check out the chat box. If anyone is viewing right now that has a question, please send it into the chat box while we have the lead developer here with us of Vertcoin. He'd be happy to answer your questions. We'll
I
see.
guess we'll let them.
So, will Vertcoin CPU mining be profitable, and if so, why? That's a question from Ted Mallon.
Well, it will be profitable in the sense that your computer is already running. So, assuming your computer is already running,
What do you have to
you're not
lose?
spending anything. So, I guess assuming you get a non-zero amount of coins, which you will, then it's profitable.
Yeah, so you're not really, you don't have much to lose.
Yeah,
if
you don't
you're
have anything to lose. I mean, you probably won't earn much, but you'll earn something.
Yeah, it's worth it. I mean, and also a lot of people like to mine for the long haul. Like I just bought a mining rig recently, and I'm gonna mine a cryptocurrency regardless of how profitable it is, because I know that the currency is gonna be worth more in the future. So I think some people mine because of that. Some people mine for other reasons. But here's another question, real quick. How frequent is the difficulty adjusted? I think we went over that, but if you could just clarify that one more
So
time.
in Vertcoin, the difficulty is adjusted every block. So I suppose this is actually another advantage to Vertcoin over Litecoin and Bitcoin, is we use a different difficulty algorithm. I mean, I know a lot of coins do this these days, but that sort of happened after Bitcoin and Litecoin sort of really came into existence. But it makes us less susceptible to multi-pools, which like to jump on our network when it's profitable and then leave very quickly. In the sort of Bitcoin, Litecoin case, that can create a situation where blocks take a lot longer because it takes 2016 blocks before there's a difficulty readjustment. Whereas in Vertcoin, it's every block, so that doesn't happen. If you were to look at a chart of average block time for Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Vertcoin, you'd see that Vertcoin's is a lot more stable than the other two.
Yes, and then we have another question here. So I think I ran into something on the subreddit, the Vertcoin subreddit. I'm relatively new to Vertcoin. I'm just learning everything. I learned a lot from this conference. But some people were saying that the old developers left the project. I don't know. Did the old developers leave the project? Is there new developers? What's the deal with the developers? How many active developers or whatnot?
So I suppose there are, I think, 8 or 9 active developers in the team now, and we're constantly looking to expand. So if you have expertise that you think would be useful, feel free to get in contact with us. I mean, ultimately, it's an open source project. There's no exclusivity in the dev team or anything. If you want to contribute, and you have something useful to, that you want to contribute, then by all means, please, and we'll happily accept you.
Yeah, you guys are definitely extremely friendly, very very outgoing, nice community. You definitely get on the Vertcoin Slack channel. I got to tell you.
Well,
It's
yeah, I mean, for us, it's not all about being like a money making exercise, get rich quick. For us, it's about creating a new financial system. We want to replace banks, clearing houses, all of that. Just completely, like one day, I imagine someone will just turn it all off.
yeah, no,
And
absolutely. I mean, and you're
Bitcoin will
doing
be
this
there to replace it.
you're doing this voluntarily, right? This is all voluntary
Yeah,
work.
none of the developers, we don't pay ourselves.
Yeah, which is quite common in the cryptocurrency community. They basically work off of donations, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you're currently a student at MIT. I don't know if you maybe have any idea with the whole Litecoin countdown thing. I know that we're talking about Litecoin a
Oh
little
yeah,
bit, but I know that MIT was an MIT address.
yeah. I mean, my understanding is like it was a student, and he like didn't realize that it would cause so much like crazy attention.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, it caught us by surprise on our end, definitely.
yeah,
Like,
knowing.
we were like, like, who is this person?
Yeah.
Because the sort of at MIT, the sort of crypto community is quite close knit, and we all know each other. So we were taken very much by surprise, and we were all as confused as you were.
I feel like you guys out of anyone being MIT students would find out first, or like would be hunting around campus to see who this person
Oh,
is.
we were trying to figure out who they were. Contacting the relevant people to like see who registered the domain name and that kind of thing.
Probably trying to talk to the head people of the university to see who gave this domain out. Because I know that it's relatively easy to
Well,
make a domain.
so yeah, so the thing is the reason why like we didn't see it as particularly significant from our end is because like anyone can register any .mit.edu domain name that they want to. Like any member of the MIT community can do that. So I could go out and register Vertcoin.mit.edu
With a countdown.
tomorrow and put my own countdown there. Right? But that probably wouldn't be
The best.
very,
That would be like a
very
pump.
honest of me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do a countdown to the past. I don't know. Do like a negative countdown. I don't know. But let's check it out. Check this out. We have another question here. Are there currently any online stores that accept Vertcoin, and what is Vertcoin's plan for higher adoption? Great question.
In the short term at least, Vertcoin is accepted anywhere Bitcoin is accepted via Shapeshift. So there's no shortage of places you can spend your Vertcoin. In terms of actual merchants, there's a merchant list, I think. If you go to vtconline.org, there's a list of merchants there. I'm not sure if it's 100% up to date, but if you search around, there's a lot, especially via Shapeshift. But moving into the future, I think the next big thing we're going to be looking at once we have Lightning Network more stable is looking at more sort of hardware-based point-of-sale solutions so that you can start using VTC for payments.
So you're going to make it easier for you to set it up in your store. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think we're going to start looking into sort of one plug-and-play solutions for merchant sales, mining, running a node in your house, that kind of thing.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like that's really a huge step towards more mass adoption is the convenience of actually adding it to your store for payment. Because I mean, it's not everyone has the common knowledge to be able to set something up like that.
Right, exactly. But I would say, I mean, in terms of active users of cryptocurrency right now, like it's definitely less than like 10 million like people.
Yeah.
And it's going to take another hurdle, I think, to get it from that sort of 10 million to the mass market where everyone can use it. And they need to not be playing with command line utilities and configuration files and things like that.
Yeah.
They want something where you just plug it in.
Yeah. Convenience is the best thing ever. And that's really what I like to look at, especially with a project. Convenience is key to adoption. And confusion with Bitcoin is really a letdown, not a good thing. But one more quick question, and then I'm going to let you go. I don't want to hold you for too long. So I know that there's a post on the Vertcoin subreddit. I think it's pinned to the top of the subreddit, and it says has something to do with rebranding. People are asking about rebranding and whatnot. Could you go over or clarify what that notion is?
Yeah, so I mean, there were some calls on the subreddit, at least, for rebranding by a select few members of the community, mostly people who are like new to the community, especially. Um, I mean, we're having the discussion on Reddit. I mean, the development team, at least, seems pretty united that like changing the coin's name is not a solution to making like Vertcoin good. If you only have to look at the price history to see that like in 6 months we've like 50x'd at price. So I don't think the name has been a problem in that at all. I think the technology speaks for itself. The name is not an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Far more effort could be put into marketing from the community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, simple things like retweeting tweets that are sent from the Vertcoin Twitter account. I mean, you look at a lot of these other coins, especially the ones that are worth like billions. They have like an army of community members who repost everything that the official like account is posting. You know, constantly going out and spreading the word. I think that would be far more valuable than spending time and effort and money that could be spent on technical development or other forms of marketing, things like that.
Yeah, and you guys just recently renovated your website too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that was just released. Yeah, I'll make sure that I retweet your guys' post on Vertcoin. I'll definitely be doing that. Love the Vertcoin project, but yeah. So I think that we have basically covered everything. We hit basically everything that we wanted to talk about. But thank you for joining me on my channel, James. It was awesome to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Like once again, all the links are in the description to follow the Vertcoin Slack channel, the subreddit, the development updates, and also Twitter. So make sure after this live stream, if you're watching it after the stream, and it's already posted on my channel, make sure to definitely go check that out because Vertcoin has a lot of promising technology, great development team, and
if people have more questions as well, remember the developer AMA Saturday.
Yeah, definitely.
11 a.m. EST.
Don't miss out on the developer AMA. It's this Saturday, 11 a.m., right?
That's if I remember it correctly.
11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So
yeah. I'll post it on the subreddit though. You won't be able to miss it.
Yeah, so go on the Vertcoin subreddit. If you have any other questions that we didn't get to answer on this live stream, definitely go and ask those questions for the AMA. But thank you once again, James. You're awesome. I'll definitely be following your project. Absolutely. Take care.
You too.